ole chibaivik ole voina chuan the paper plaque ti kan zir bak kha kan chiar bak kha kan chiar le dona in lekhabu khalo en le ula page 20 literature in literature class 10 literature page 20 third paragraph atang khan kan chiar chunjom le ang the paper plague had struck the whole world kan shet ang khan paper plague awang khan paper shi ti meng mo pul shi awang khan paper kha va pa chang veka khang awang khan khovel kha boy me makhoi ram po kha khoi mun po kha khoi vek maya scientists worked feverishly but in vain to find the cause scientists ho thiam khang ho scientists ho ti khan an thiam the ang tok me khan kha achan kha engwang kha tiang ron ta thut nge ti kha achan kha an zong na sani ma seng nge ni an lo cham achan an lo thelo ni chu was this disaster caused by sudden radiation from outer space or had the solar system in its orbit perhaps passed into an unknown zone the influence of which was only now being manifested achan te khan an zong ani achan kha han pu me tur khan si lova radiation engemo wanga he khovel pia lam radiation thil thling wanga lo thleng tamai ani amiang ani le kan solar system yan a hel lo tur akal kung le lo tura kalin akal lo na tura tikal hian mundang unknown zone te akal ta emni ti kha anin zo tani achan kha engman che theilawa mase enge mothil chu athlenga a influence kha thil thingina aron hong kha chu tuna anton me khi ani boxia achiang se enge moni thil chu athlenga ni engwange ti khama sen che theilo scientists inventors and technicians in all advanced countries were trying to devise a way to make paper like substance which would be immune to the plague that had destroyed the wood pulp product this one scientists te thil muchuak to inventors le technician kan ti khanga mithiam kan tiang mob khang mithiam mo chi sang ram sang mi te khan ram changkang tak mi te khan thinga tanga siam paper ti chetu ina ati chiat ni theilo tur khatiang siam kha khatiang siam chuak tur khan manas takmen la tunami te khachu ati chethei vekama se chuwangin tuna chang chuan he mi atanga siam ti chethei lo tu tur mo khateng angchi kha siam kha anu to a an ma an lan se me mai ni civilization had been largely sustained by paper provided by wood pulp a substitute has now had to be found the repercussions for a paperless world were more extensive and alarming than ever imagined. Tichuan masona ai chuan hi paper kanin ngat mema wood pulp mo thing mangastanga wood pulp tanga paper siama hianin hemason hi ein ngat memaya ma se hatta paper akan ral tak me awang khan fa pa changme to sia substitute kha siam chu ange ngai ni kha ahong kha paper omlevina ahong kha azau maya apoizia kha kan ngai to chuak thiam lo ni he paper omlovina ahong zau zia ahong na sat zia kha kan sha thiam phak lo ni meantime the offices of the world had been reduced to reliance on the telephone which had to be severely rationed, leading to enormous delays and complete confusion. Tituan office hoka telephone khananin ngat thup pe ni telephone line khala chevelova ma seng kha telephone la kha chutianga du aman the ni lawa severely rationed bithya ne man mo hun big ne bithya ne man tura ti kha nia chuan khumwan chan na le boina na satak kha millions of typewriters stood useless on their tables. Typewriter chu mo anuai tel typewriters khado kana khan tangkai na nei to lo khan an thu an me to ni the cable and telegraph system were dead cable le telegraph thu in thon na ang chi reng kha paper mang tang kai tu ho kha typewriter te mo khate ang te telegraph te khate ang chi reng paper in a pui mo na sat ka nei ho kha paper om tak lawa chuan man tlak ani to lo mo bear that all paper records were now floating dust. All employees who had earned their living through paperwork were now unproductive. Paper mga ezon na lo mutin ezon na lo nei thin paper mga ezon nat nei zong te khatuna chuan engma lo nei lovin tho chwa nei lo nei lo khan an lo omtani. No one had identity papers or reference paper or passports anymore. All birth certificates and legal and official documents of all kinds had legally gone with the wind. Bank records had crumbled to dust. Paper money, checks, stocks and bonds, and government loan papers had all vanished. So had all the blueprints, plans, legal records, mathematical formulae, and even the Bible. Paper mang tang kai ho paper atangak thil kan nei identity paper ke ma ni in sia theina identity paper te tin reference paper passport kan ti te kha birth certificate tin dan le sarkar le khapoi mo zong te kha tam khop me in jak tewa bank records te ang ti te tin check te mo thil poi mo kan lo don lok na blueprint tin kan ro man na plans legal records khang zong kha mu tur om lo Bible keng khan me vapa an chang vek me ni. I and my friend Laila were paper people. Azak to khan kathian nu Laila nen hian paper people kan ni atia chomi amza chu paper manga na thok kan nia paper mamo na satak me kan ne kan na thona khan. There was nothing to do in our offices. Paper om tak meow lo wang khan engma ti tur kan office sa kan nei to lova. People had lost their salaries and savings. Mi zong khan an saving te abova an lo te abova an loss an chana. But food was the main thing that got depleted from the shops very fast. Ei tur chi mo food kha dora tanga ral chak ber mo ral chak ber ani. People became strangers to each other. Mi ka anin mission vekto in line nat nale in khongai na khan nelo. Ke ti na borwa ka cheng to ni chu mo paper play ka wanga ina angong thalo tak me chu people became strangers to each other. Tempers became markedly strained. Thin kha ram mi ka an lung oi to lo mo an lung nur to. Chuan people were anxious and angry. An philia an thinarim boka mo mi pui an mi zia kha dang vek to me ni. A professor had committed suicide and so had a millionaire whose money crumbled to dust. A man I knew who had just won a lottery lost it all when the ticket turned to dust. He killed himself. Mi pui mi zia kha dang to kan ti ka professor pakhat po ka amale ma ain ti hlum ringot ta tin millionaire pakhat po kha apoi sa khatianga dasta achantak vekawang khan ain anunna ala a tin mi pakhat ka mel shiat po lottery achaka lo manadonga lottery khan awina ma seng kha a lottery ticket khami kha dasta om ta ka wang khan alo man kha va claim thei to lo chu wang chon ama kha in that ni khongai tlak lo le mai chu mi pathumut ta hian professor te millionaire te tin lottery man pa kha khamit khan annunna anla ani. Next morning Laila and I stood by the window watching the crowds when we heard a crash of breaking glass. Food shop windows fell to pieces under the hail of missiles and kicking boots. Looting had begun. Chu atuk zinga chuan Laila athian nu khamo thopui nu kha tuk verbula chuan kan han dinga mi pui te chu kan han kan en mek lai chuan dar thlang ke ri kha kan shetani te dar thlang ke ri kha kan she a ti chuan shop windows food shop windows mo khami ei tur omna door tuk ver kha mo lunga vom tele thir awang te khan lo ke a an thu khan mi pui omngai na shelo mang ang to khan an ti ke try me nin dar thalang te ti chuan looting had begun in rock na kha lo thleng ta ni an du lai an ti ke adar thalang ten ti ke a an ni an tukver te khan tike a ti khan an lu theina an lu ta an in rok na khan an du dun valata ti na ni chumo looting a chuan in an hour all the shops were plundered. It was further proof that people under the threat of famine can behave like beasts. Ti chuan darkar khachung lek chuan looting om to kan ti kha dora khan an lut popan du dun valato ni dor kha an rok na wang khan arwak ta vek main darkar khachung me apo khan retheina drama thlendon na engene the threat of famine dram thlen ei tur nei lo na bo ruwa ka chuan mishing hi behave like beast ang main ram sakol ang main kan behavior po hi lo in change theni ti kan mi zia kan nun phung zong po kha beast ang me kan ni to mo kan nun phung kha lo che mem to a ram sakol ang main kan khosa to ani ati before the people turned to departmental stores the police and army had moved in then the shooting began. Ti chuan mi pui thin rim to khan angin abak le zel departmental store dor lian zok te an kalma khan police le army lampang khan on enroll thei lo tame wani thlak tak mai khan in ka na ti kha thlenga ti chuan by evening the government has restored order tanks squatted in the main streets and marketplaces ti chuan tlai lama chuan sarkar khan thupe kha aking ko theita bo ro kha thunun thei ve ta ni khatenga dor rok me ang chi tele in swal le inti boy noi ang chi te kha khateng ang chi kha om to lovin amar chu tank te chu he indo na ta na man tangkai man tangkai chinani a tank te kha khola ya ko thera te chuan an therful ta me ni mo nang dai le to ani. Next morning, there were announcements regarding distribution of food. Ti chuan tu ka chuan bu fai ei tur lam semdan tur chungchang kha announcement kha thupuan kha lom ta a each house had to choose its representative and from them would be chosen leaders for the collection and distribution of food. The declaration of a state of emergency was being repeated by the loudspeaker in the street. Ti chuan kha thupuan na khanin in tinatang khan ai o pakhat theuan thlanga chung ai o pakhat theu chuan kha ei tur khon tu ngani semvel tur kha an thlang chuak le don ani ti kha anron puang ta a ti chuan a kha to khan in ral rin na tur ang thit chi te kha aurin na mang khan an puang dum rem boka. The radio broadcast the news, the announcements and the warnings. The issue of new metal coinage held trade to start again. International trade was slower as it had depended much on paper. Ti chuan radio kha chuan in news kha puang ren the ni radio kha chu alaran thei reng kan ti kha mo thupuan kha chu announcement engeni thusia tur poimo om tele tin engeni warnings kan te ang chi invent hona tur in ral rin na tur ang chi te khate ang ti kha puang dum reng maya. Ti chuan new metal coinage new metal coinage kha metal coin thir poisa ang chi kha aron introduce le ta sarkar khan issue le ta ti chuan sumdon na po kha tan le thei anita ni international trade kha ma se khovel pumin sumdon ton na ero kha chu amwang de uleka paper an lowin kha thui to wang khan ramsang in sumdon ton na international trade kha chu claim in amwang de uleka new agreements were written crudely on blackboards with chalk or burnt on ply or plastic sheets with electric needles. The text, photograph and negatives airmailed wherever they were needed. Plastics, metal, glass and clay were also used for preserving important records. Ti chuan thil anin rem siam na anja tur te kha paper om to silova blackboard sa te khan an zia ka tin chalk in blackboard sa an zia ka tin me sai na engani plywood thing a emmu mangten an zia ka tiang khan an the ang khan plastic sheet te khan electric shiao mang te khan thil kha an ziak thina ni te chuan khang an thil khalak teng te kha an theina na khanin an thon chua ka plastic metal le glass te clay plastic chu kan sia te ro thir te dar thlang te le lung le kha te kha thil poimo von himna tan khan man mang tangkai ve ta em maya A famous chemist who had lost his valuable library filled his empty shelves with strips of plywood covered with writing. His formulae were written on the smooth plaster of his wall. Pakhat chemist kan ti science lampang mi scientist si meng mo kami ming thang tak mai khan athil nei zong library a thil poi mo tak zia khang ho chan tu pakhat po khanin a room te kha plywood thil zia hian a lo da khat vea a formula ani thin ang a shet ang te kha I kha bang mam la ya te kha na lo zia ka plywood le bang mam la ya thil shet ang chi te kha lo ziak le ni chu. During his interview he said, knowledge has not disappeared from the face of the world along with the paper which we had thought preserve it. Paper bo rual khan kan shiat na paper ina a lo vong hi ma mokan ti kan knowledge ang chi te paper rual kal ral ve ta e mokan ti te kha ala ral ve le nem kan shiat na kan knowledge hi has not disappeared. He kho ve la hana la bo reng le nem paper bo rual khan a bo ve ta mai mokan ti a we know the result of all that we have lost even if we cannot remember every turn and twist in the road leading to them. He kan thil kan lo na se tak me na engeron thlen chu kan shefika ma seng enge ni ati dan le a mu chwa dan he tiang ang kha chu engma kha chu kan she em lova engwanga lo thleng nge te po kan she lova ma seng perhaps this general spring cleaning may even prove to be a blessing. Spring cleaning ati tani kha chu mo kha me al na lo me al tila le kha va paron chan na kha vapa chan naka spring cleaning hian he spring cleaning hi kan tan mal som na ni lau thi sin a chan chu in huat na le certainly it has rid us of great accumulation tling khom mo of prejudice and rubbish in huat na le bol lo na te hi kha ngani apai fight de ani melom ti khan ngani hlim omzong khan ron clear ta he kan spring cleaning hian kan ke ma ni a thil thalo in huat na le bol lo dekha apai fai de lo mati a microfilm records were now humankind's greatest intellectual resources. Science, banking and law had suffered the heaviest losses through the disappearance of paper records. Among the arts, painting was less hard hit than literature, while music was saved by gramophone records. Tichuan microfilm man ti khang records ho ang chi kha humankind sa chuan an ngai hlut per an ro hu ber ani to a khovel mishinga kha chuanin science le banking le law khan an tuana sem science lam thiam na te tin bank le dan lam pang khan mo an heaviest losses paper om tak lawa chon khang ho kha tuan sapper ania ma se arts lama kha chuanin lemzia lampang kha chu chuan an tuan la em lo maya literature ai chuan mo a lemzia lampang kha chuan less hard hit atia angong khan savak lo zo ka literature te ai chuan music ero kha chu gramophone records a khan engkim khala in safe khap bokani. The day passed, hunte local yam vezela. Laila and I got married. Atian nu at hopui nu Laila nen khan kanin neita ati. No paper sanction our alliance or anyone else. O kan in nei chin cha na le kha sia khatyang ang kan in siam rem na te kha le kha ja engma omlo midang po chu tiang chuan engma kan nei lo. Many wondered about nameless and without family ties. Engma ziak omzia ming omze nei lovin omze omlovin ming lovin in kung kai na in chunzom na khatyang ang engma omlo khan kan omvel mai maya. Yet a lot happened during those days till tam tak khati hun lai khan athlengani, but the excitement died down and memories grew dim. Amaro chu khang phur na khatyang ang chi tikha alo thive tiala sharing na po alo ral ve tialani alo chau ve tiala. I could make no notes. Engma notes kasiam thelo although on our walls we had a blackboard. Kan banga te chuan blackboard te chu kan nei ring mai. Engma khazia theni lo blackboard te chu an nei. A real hunger for reading and writing grew and could not be satisfied. There was nothing to read. Reading le writing chak na chiar le zia chak na khan mitin mai kha atwa mani. Anin tang fak thelo engma khan chiar tur pakhat ma ombok si lawa mishing kha hlim na te po kha kyang turu anin nang fak thelo enga ma khan mo there was nothing to read here to ombok si lo blackboards and slate and pencils become a fashionable craze blackboard te lungle kha kan ti slate te pencil te kha kan achil le kan khoi lar mo kan achil le kan du ber khanita and the microfilm and the projections camera and screen become necessities in schools and universities school le university ala khan le kha to lo thlat awang khan microfilm ang chi te projector kan ti projection camera khang te kha apoimo anlo nita a societies and clubs were formed for oral dissemination from memory of tales poems history, biography, educational and other items. Society te le hek pol ang te po khan ding ve ma se azia na le khatyang ang pol dan le donja na po khan ni lo an ka athu omsa oral dissemination tia an shiat sa to te khapor chwa le na ringot mo an ma ni shiat na atanga an lo shiat to sa te soi chwa le na kha ani me khang society le pol ang clubs ang te po khan an thiam to sa ang chi mo an tong anin shil chon anin hlan chon the kha ni me engma zia na om tak lo wang khan the radio acquired an enormously new importance and place in human life radio kha poi mo thare mem bokani ti tur om te lo chu chiar tur om lo jak tur om lo bok chu chan chin tharan shiat na ber kha radio nia poi mo kha chang mun poi mo there was also a revival of orator mo to say thiam khatya angchi kha to say thiam te in twai thar le khan tamani in twai thar le na hun kha thlenga we listen to them at street corners in the marketplace in public halls kha thung to say thiam ten an lo shiat so to sa to mang khan thu te khan sei an sei ringa street corner sa te marketplace sa te mo kot khlera te bazar lam huna te tin mi pui pun khom na in hola te khan an thu khan sei reng maya an ma ni om to thi an thu sha sa to mang khan mo the oratorical qualities and talents that had been so vital a part of the ancient world's life were rediscovered and exploited once again. Ti chuan khang thu soi thiam na tun nuala tun lai lar to vak lo thu soi thiam ngai san na tun ma ti chuan paper te om lo lai le khazak tur char le zia kan thiam ma a chuan thu soi thiam tak thu soi thiam te an poimo an hlutin ani khang hun lai an hlut ang khan tuna khan an lon hluthar le ta ni khang thu soi thiam tak te thu soi te kha ngai hlut Karon nileta tichuan and then one day a science research worker discovered how to make a paper that was immune to the plague that had destroyed all the old wood pulp and vegetable fiber fabric. Tichuan ni khachu science research worker pakhathian thing le thai sri ti chevek thei shi shileng laka him thei paper kha apu chuak ta ni. At first, everyone was incredulous and even bankers were cagey. Matsing atira kachuan mi khan an ring lelani an oi lo an ringam lo timeng bankers bank lang ma thok te ho po khan mo khang ril film tak ho po khan an film khur ma bankers ho teng te po kha but the process was proved and suddenly it seemed that the government was rushing through paper factories the way they had once rushed through weapon and ammunition plants. And new machines were running around the clock, churning out billions of tons of printed matter for millions of people who demanded only one thing, something to read. Tichuan, an ring le ni rin le chung khan ma seng paper shina e chia thei lo paper an mu chuaka an han proof ta atha ani adikani ti khan mu chuak ta chu vele chuan lo sarkar chu vele chuan le sarkar khan a factory khan kha engani ral thuam man mo taka ral thuam le khatyang ang bungrua thom no man mo taka a produce thin ang khan asiam chuak thin ang me khan kha paper factory paper siam chuak tur khan thei patop mai khan khol mang khan an thok tamol maya billions of tons of printed matter for millions of people who demanded only one thing, something to read. Chair do hotan khan engani chumlo chatlovin khola khan mo an herta chur meni. In the beginning, plain paper was in great demand as printed paper. Atira ti khachuan in plain paper ringot po kha great demand ani mamo du khan tam maya he chair tur om printed paper ang cha me khan du na khan sa maya achan chu kha plain paper ringot po kha mi khan an lo ziak ngai to lo paper zia ti kha an thalhel lia eng zia chin khan chak vek to ni. Could the world have ever had as many writers as now? Khovel hian tiang ang renga ziak mi writers tuna kan ne ang hi anei to angem le. Fortunately for humankind, microfilm libraries have been preserved. Fani thak tak main mishing tan chuan microfilm library kha an lo vong him lo mai ania awani thak le ani. And did we learn anything from the paper plague? Ani le paper plague he paper pool shi tang hian enge mok zir kan neem le enge kan zir le thil zir kan neem. No, again we lie in paper fetters. Eng ma zir kan nei chuang lo paper khwa khir na nuaya paper thu nuaya kan omle ringot ani me ni ti in atop na aron kharta a angai no min ti em mak me mathil thleng tak tak chu ne lo ma seng jak thiam le a angai nom zong thir chon angai nom lawanga amaro chu ajak to na jak thiam le a khang atwar tu chi sang te kha eng nge twar khoi muna nge paper plaque hi twar tu tenge ti teng te kha zo na te khan ama khang tiang chang thei tur khan uluk devin in lo chiar le anga thattakin zo na te po chang turin kanin bo sai donia o